What's the craziest thing you heard or witnessed at a rich people event? I worked a private event as a waiter. It was a rehearsal dinner. The father of the bride was telling everyone he chartered a private jet for his daughter and son-in-law to fly to Bali for their 6-week honeymoon, which he has also paid for. The jet was to stay there for their use for the duration of the trip in case they wanted to visit other places if they got bored. The rehearsal dinner for 20 people was about $20K. Working that event was probably the most I ever made in one night at that job, certainly the easiest. Learned about the yacht life. I once had super wealthy bosses and they were talking about their friend who owned several buildings. And who had a big yacht. So the yacht was always ready to go. Which meant that it had a full complement of personnel, paid full time, down to chefs and servers. It was basically a hotel at sea. The thing is, the guy rarely used it. So you had a boatload of bored people who had nothing much to do. If the guy goes to Europe, he would rather fly there and have the yacht head there ahead, just in case he felt like using it. Which wasn't all the time. Special service. It was a ritzy wedding and someone there was a congressman. So we had secret service throughout the wedding pretending like they were guests while also not engaging with anyone to be distracted. They were like real-life NPCs. Having to chase someone down because they paid a power bill for a family in need at a charity event. It was $2,200. They wrote the check for $22,000, said they just heard wrong. When we were poor, our daughter went to a private preschool that was great for her disability and they accepted us at hardly any tuition in exchange for speaking at fundraising events for them on our daughter's benefit from being at the school. At their big fancy yearly ball dinner we were speakers and they sat us at a donor table. We were literally stealing dinner rolls to make our Carl Buddig sandwich meat better. At the auction portion one of the ladies explained that last year she bid on and won the African safari but she didn't have anyone to go with her so she donated it back to this year's event. As that vacation came up for bid she goes, "Wait, my niece loves animals and travel. I'll take her," and she went and bought it for her second year in a row. I was in the Peace Corps in Zambia. We used to hang out at the casino in Lusaka cause they gave you free food, drinks, and cigarettes while you played. We would play like $2 hands of blackjack just to get fed. But I went to the roulette table and some guy put down $10,000 in USD all over the table. Lost his spin, and just shrugged his shoulders and walked away. Coming from the village where we shat in holes and pumped our own water, I was floored by the amount of wealth that existed right around from us. Them speaking casually of high authority people as if they're friends. It was expected that they knew each other but the casuality got me unprepared. I attended a rich person dinner in Bel Air. My girlfriend and I hardly knew anyone there but slowly got the sense everyone there was wealthy. The house where the dinner was held was listed for $80 on my Zillow app. At the actual dinner, I began to make small talk with the guy seated next to me. We started talking about traveling, and he said his friend recently raced with the Porsches in Germany. I looked at him and said, "Oh, you mean he raced Porsches in Germany? That's great." He looked at me confused and said, "No, he raced with the Porsche family," and rattled off a couple names of the Porsche heirs that apparently they were friendly with. I don't think it qualifies as a rich people event, but my wife works for bank, and unless you are management at a bank, you don't make shit. At her company holiday party a few years ago, the president of the bank comes out on stage and starts shooting dollar bills out of an air cannon. The sight of a reasonable wealthy head of a bank shooting dollars at his underpaid, $17 per hour, employees, that they then have to scramble on the floor in their evening wear to pick up turned my stomach. I don't know how a supposedly smart and successful person could be so tone deaf. It was gross. I was invited to a corporate party in NYC. The party was at the Museum of Modern Art. They rented the museum for the evening. There was a caviar table you could go to and get as much caviar as you wanted. I was told that the caviar cost $5,000. This was in the early 90s. Literally bowls of joints and cigarettes left out around the house in beautiful glass-blown bowls. A Molly bathroom, to just hang out and take drugs. An entire bar of top-shelf liquor with not one but 3 signature cocktails. 2 DJs for different vibes. Rich people know how to party. Don't worry, Greg. It's a nice, safe space where you don't have to pretend to like Hamilton. Worked for a guy who said he shouldn't have to pay taxes because he doesn't use the welfare programs it pays for. I get where he comes from, but taxes pay for so much more than just welfare. Same guy also said that he lies on his taxes because if he gets audited then he'll just pay what he owes, but if he doesn't then it's free money. Oh, you don't want that poor people ketamine, we have better stuff at the afters. Hot tip for anyone that likes art. The best place to see art in places like New York? Auction houses. They change their art every month. Most of it will go into private collections and never be seen again, and they are free to visit. I've stood in a room at Sotheby's in NYC by myself with 5 or 6 Monets. Probably $70 $80 million worth. But the two crazy things I've seen is you won't even find rich collectors there. They send their assistants. And one time I was at Sotheby's and they were auctioning off a bunch of Tiffany vases. Some assistant was checking them out, flipping them over, bare hands, just almost tossing them around like Soho cups. I was shocked.